Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. This is Stuart Cohen from Nodeware and IGI Cyber Labs. We'll get started in just a minute on our live demo and peer Q&A call. We're just waiting for some of your colleagues to log in. In the meantime, if you have any questions, feel free to submit them, put them in the chat box, put them in the question box, and we'll go ahead and make sure we address your questions today. One of the questions that always comes up is recording. Yes, we will be recording this. Yes, it'll be available on our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch the rebroadcast or send the link to the rebroadcast or anybody that's interested. So with that, we'll just wait about a minute for some people to log in, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. We've now got a good group of folks online with us. First of all, I want to thank everybody for joining. As always, we have two different sessions that we provide at Nodeware. One is this session specifically. It is an open demo peer Q&A call. Unfortunately, our guest speaker, Brian Lenning, who was supposed to be joining us today, is caught in a bunch of ice storm and power issues happening in Illinois, and he's dealing with some of his clients and some of the issues that he has at their organization. So unfortunately, he will not be able to join us today. He apologized for that, but also will be available to answer any questions. So he said if there were any questions that got submitted, to get them to him, and then he would get the answers back to us, and we would respond back to anybody who had those. So if you had a question specifically for Brian, we apologize that he won't be on today. He apologizes, but make sure you submit those questions and we will get answers back from him to you specifically. This session is really about Nodeware. It's about an opportunity for you to ask the questions that you have. We do these once a month. We've had a series of MSP partners on these sessions. We've also had some of their clients and some industry experts talking about kind of what's happening as it relates to continuous vulnerability management and the like. We'll provide a live demo for you, and then we'll answer your questions. But if there's questions you have before that, feel free to put those in now, and we can start the dialogue. This is designed to be very collaborative, designed to be, an opportunity for you to get the questions you want answered, as well as to hear what might be on the minds of some of your peers. If we can go to the next slide. As always, we also we do a couple of different things. We provide open office hours for the seven-figure MSP members. So if you're a member of seven-figure MSP, that takes place on March 3rd. Make sure you attend that session as well if you have any questions you want to ask specifically there. We will also have another one of these sessions in March, and we'll get that posted as well. I believe it'll be the third week in March. We'll have our open demo peer Q&A call, and we will have a cyber thought leadership seminar webinar in March as well. We just had Tony Sager on last week from the SIS-18 program, talking specifically about how frameworks and how compliance have changed, what's not only important to small business leaders and executives, investors and board members, but also their clients, and the different roles that regulatory and compliance and frameworks are creating and driving for them to run their businesses and keep their data, their critical data, if you will, available to run their businesses. So we will have a session in March that we will be announcing shortly. And we also have a security through visibility and awareness that we will have John and Juan on that'll be talking about in April. So those are some of the upcoming events that we have. Any of you that happen to be at the ASCII conference, Frank is also at the ASCII conference, so you'll be able to see him there later today if you happen to be in Southern California. So with that, once again, why don't we jump right into the demonstration? If you have any questions, once again, put them into the chat box or the question box. And as always, we'll get to those questions. And as I said, in this particular case, if you had something specifically for Brian Lenning, please post that in as well, and we'll make sure we get those questions to him and get the answers back to you. Thanks so much for getting started. And with that, I will turn it over to Frank to walk through the demonstration.
Okay, great, thanks. And hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon. Let's see, I'm getting a message. Okay, we good to go? Stuart, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I am.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so yeah, so as Stuart mentioned, Nodeware really is a really innovative, cost-effective way to manage risk, right? Identify it, to understand risks that are in the network, in your customer's network. And so with that in mind, what we are providing with Nodeware is a continuous, normal business hours, no scheduling required vulnerability management tool. To get to this point, what you're seeing here is the MSP view of your multi-tenant solution. I'll drill into the 4 customers here in a moment. But what you can see is the different tools on the left over here. You can see some data in terms of our assets and what's being protected and how often it's being scanned and all that. And then there's some other industry news that we deem sort of relevant that's worth looking at. To get to this point in terms of the scoring and the number of customers, there's a couple different ways that you collect data. So we do have a virtual network sensor that kind of think of the big broad fishing net that you're throwing out to capture everything that's in that bit of ocean. With that, you are picking up any IP address. So that means, IP cameras out on the edge. You've got VoIP phones. You got printers, servers, firewalls, PCs, servers. Again, anything that's got an IP address, even if it's across subnets, we're going to be able to pick it up and identify it and start the scanning process. For devices that may not be on the network, we have agents, and the agents will work on Windows PCs, on Macs, and on some Linux endpoints. And at that point, you have a fully credentialed scan on the notebook wherever and it's reporting wherever it's connected. So it could be at in a home, it could be any other environment that is wherever they are. If they're connected, they're going to be providing input in. And then thirdly, we have external scans that enable you to keep an eye on your websites, your customers' websites, and make sure that they are current and no new vulnerabilities might be hitting them that you didn't know about. So that's kind of the general sort of deployment method or the data capturing method. Let's go and look at the customers. Within the customers now, you can see the by individual customer. These could be locations within one customer. It's kind of really how you set it up. But you've got, in this case, we've got 4 customers. You can see quickly that there's 3 highly critical vulnerabilities in this customer, 2 here, 1 here, and 1 here. So this is a demo environment, so don't worry, we're not. This isn't a real data from an MSP, but it'll effectively be that. So you can see the quick data there. You can see their scoring. 849 is a higher risk score. 994 is pretty close to the highest you can get, which is 999. 747's got some serious issues there, and this one's kind of in the pretty good range, but there's always room for improvement. So we'll take a look at this first one here. Let's look at Aperture Science. And in this environment, we can see up at the top here, we've got 20 assets that have been scanned and are being monitored. There's currently 17 online because we are checking the pulse of the devices every minute. So we're looking to see if it's online. and you can see which ones are online by this little green eyeball here. So during the last scan, it was online. Here's one that's offline. So that's the value of that quick monitoring. You also, in a scan and in a continuous data, you get the IP address, the MAC address for each asset. You get the Ubuntu, sort of fingerprint to tell you what it is at a high level, what the product is. And then these tags are really valuable to get a sort of a quick grouping. Some of them are kind of organic. So if you wanted to look at Windows Server, you could click on the Windows Server and it would show you the 1 or the 100 or the whatever number you have. And for this customer, they would all come. So if you were focused on servers today as a tech or as just a manager, you can come in and look at those. We also have the ability to customize. So if you have a set of machines and assets that are in the finance department, and you want to be able to segment them really quickly and just look at what's going on in their particular environment, again, you can click in that. So you can create those individual customized tags in there. And then finally, again, over here to the right, we have these scores, call them a credit score or a risk score. This is the, 0 is ultimately the worst you can get, and 999, which we have down here, is the best you can get. So within this one customer environment, you have multiple abilities to look, real quickly and see what kind of environments you've got. But the real value is in, okay, now I have identified it, what do I do about it? So in this case, we'll look at this Windows server here. And when we go in here, and you'll see loads of issues. This was just a basic raw Windows Server 2019 system and deployed and without any patches at all. So there's obviously tons of critical patches, vulnerabilities found, all kinds of things going on here. But again, this would not be your case as you would load it and make sure it's updated. But for example purposes, we can go into any one of these. Let's look at this critical Windows DNS Server remote code execution vulnerability. When we go in here, what we're providing now, and this is where our deep scan technology is enabling the evaluation of the system, but also the deliverable of the remediation here. We don't actually do the remediation. That's still up to you and your tools and your timing, but we do provide very specific remediation steps to do it. So again, we can just kind of go through here. We can look at, here's the CVE number. Here's the issue. This KB file is missing for that, and it's making this be a vulnerable solution. That in itself is very valuable. You know what to do and where to go fix that. But what we also provide is a link directly to the Microsoft site that addresses that particular vulnerability. So when you go here, you can see this this page, and you can get a good look and information about what what they're suggesting you do. Sorry, my servers are down for maintenance, so Microsoft might need to look at that. But the point is, we do provide a quick response and ability to track that and to remediate. And what we've been finding, which is really a huge value with Nodeware that you don't see in any other vulnerability products, is the time savings just to get to this point. Normally, you might know that a device has got a vulnerability. You might get that number, but that's kind of it in most cases. Then you have to go research, look up the CVE. Okay, you find it's a Microsoft CVE. Then you got to go search on Microsoft, boom, 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 right? That can take 15, 20 minutes or more just to understand what you need to do. And we provide that right within this platform. So we're finding, we've had multiple MSPs that have been using this or saying, their techs are saving an hour, 2 hours, just depending on what their day load is, with the sort of the quick access to the remediation. So they're not spending time researching, they're spending time doing, which is again a very valuable asset.
One point on that, on this session that we had last month, our guest speaker was Nick McCourt from Integris, and he talked about how their researchers spend about 15 minutes per vulnerability. They average researching 5 per day. It was an hour and 15 minutes. they extrapolated, that turns out to be, over 6 hours for the week, how much time that takes over the course of a year. And he said on the session last month, that's saving them anywhere from $40,000 to $60,000 per systems analyst or cyber technician that might be going through this at the same time. So it was a significant comment that he made about the productivity gains and time savings that they got from the deep scan capabilities that we rolled out in the fourth quarter. So always good to hear from one of your peers about it versus, when Frank, myself, or Mark talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, super. So you get the point there when we go on to the next little area within the customer experience or within your MSP experience. So you can quickly look at the types of sensors you're using within your customers, right? And here you can make different settings. So one of the examples in here with Aperture, if we go into the settings, let's say you're scanning, a wide range of things, and you realize, the VoIP phones don't need to be scanned, or you want to specifically eliminate certain sections of your network. You can go into here and sort of limit the range, and so that they don't scan and count as part of your subscription. So we found this to be not necessarily the thing you always want to do, but in some cases it makes sense to either eliminate them, or maybe you're going to be doing some other work off of them, or replacing them, and you don't want them to come in and be a scanned entity when it's not it's not current. So again, just sort of an example there. On the subscription site here, you can just kind of see what your subscription is. You can look at the per customer, how many assets they're using. This kind of helps you toward your billing usage or your P&Ls per customer, however you want to do it, but just some good valued information there. Now, reporting is a really key element here from us, where two things. One, there are about 9 different reports that you can get, and you can see the different ones here. If you're able to see this network report, which it kind of gives you all the detail, including the drill downs that I just did, and externals. If you just want to look at your externals and produce a report, a nice, really executive summary, which I'll show here in a moment. You got the top vulnerabilities, log4j, inventory, exceptions, JSON report, and an XML. So depending on what your needs are, you can produce a report, and I'm going to generate one here just real quickly while we're kind of going. I'm going to pick a executive summary, so we can see I'm going to run this report. So again, example here, you might be going to the customer in the afternoon. You want to be able to give them the latest outlook and perspective on what their network is doing and what you've been doing with it to improve the risk profile. You can now see that the report's already ready. I'm going to download that securely, and you can open it up and go and see that. So this is, just brand new, February 23rd, just produced, covering the last 30 days, showing the top 10 vulnerabilities, the most common, a little bit of profile, and then some other information that will help you, understand what's going on and be able to present this to the customer. It's non-branded, so if you want to get creative with your Adobe or with your HTML skills, you can, produce your own logo on here and provide this. So again, simple example is you could say, hey, last month we were here, the score was 800. We've done these 3 things. We got to 849. Here's our roadmap for next month that we hope to get over 900. So good ways to provide valuable information to your customers. You can also, that's kind of an on-demand, but we can also schedule. So if you have a compliance customer or a compliance-oriented customer that needs audits or wants things, you can just have these reports scheduled weekly on Sunday. These 2 reports, you can pick a different one if you want a executive summary and for all your customers, and you can hit save, and that will be in this platform here. We won't call, I call it inbox, but we don't email any of these files. You have to come into the platform and download them just for an extra level of security. The other thing to call out here is this bottom right. We've got a REST JSON API for exporting any and every piece of the data that you've seen here today. and more. So I'll go to that page real quickly, but the APIs here, you can take, if you need the reports, if you need individual customer data. We've got partners that are utilizing this API. You might be producing a report. That's not good. I think my Wi-Fi is doing a little wonky. But within that API site, you have lots of materials and all the data you needed. One example, though, of an integration studio, which has a S2 risk assessment tool that they are able to, with this API and the customer number, you're able to provide them data, and the data from Nodeware goes right into their assessment tool, which you can use to work with your customer and provide guidance beyond whatever that comes out and recommends. So we've got a number of different integrations that are relevant there. So
yeah, Frank, we got a question submitted before today's session. It came to me on LinkedIn about Security Studio and how does the API work. And it is exactly that. So an MSP has Nodeware running. They take the output of Nodeware, it drops in through the API into the S2 assessment. And they then have a holistic risk management assessment that they can deliver to their clients that shows across the risk profile of everything that Security Studio shows them in their automated and continuous risk management assessment and risk management plan for going forward. It gives you a pretty detailed set of solutions for what's required, to keep your critical data safe and secure. There's a copy of the brochure right now. The other thing that I would add is we've got some assessment firms that use the Security Studio S2 assessment. They've used some older traditional vulnerability scanning tools where they've had to set up, run it, take the report, and then externally and manually cut and paste the output into the S2 assessment. That takes them an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours. Whereas in less than 15 minutes, they can set up, run Nodeware, and with the API, integrate that in. So it's saving those assessment firms about an hour and 15 minutes per assessment that they're running. So you can look at, somebody who runs those on a weekly basis or monthly basis, it can be at a significant dollar savings.
And just effort. Yeah, absolutely. So,
is there an option to export data as a CSV file?
Mark, I don't believe so directly. Mark, is there a way to do that?
Can you state that again, please?
It says, is there an option to export data as a CSV file?
Yes, there is. The CSV exports are both for usage, which will break down all your users and how many assets they are using, when they were deployed, et cetera, et cetera. The other CSV export is for inventory that can be parsed and put right into any inventory system that your company may run. So those are the two CSV exports that we offer. We also offer an export of the vulnerability data in XML format, as well as an export for JSON data as well. So pretty much have all your export formats covered when it comes to reporting on either machines and or vulnerability data.
So before we leave that topic, I know that came in from Chris. Chris, is there any follow-on questions or anything we can clarify further about that? And if so, just feel free to put that into the chat or question box.
Okay. So the last thing I'll just cover while we're waiting to see if there's any more questions on that is the support. And this is again both a critical sort of online on-demand reference, but also our support team is here in upstate New York, or I guess sort of northeastern New York. We are generally very, very responsive on email and in the support tickets, but a lot of information is here. You can see from deployment and troubleshooting concepts. We can look at, just from a deployment standpoint, how to integrate with Gradient, which is running integration partners using the APIs. We've got, let's say, what do I want to do? Look at the Windows sensor deployment instruction, just as an example, right? So we go right through step by step, what you'll expect, what you'll see on your screens, step by step again, activation, and ready to roll. So all of this information is in there. But when you're on the support page, you can also always just submit a request in there. You know, explain your issue, your suggestions, your needs, and we will respond and track on that very quickly. On deployment, one of the things I think, Mark, maybe we'll unless there's any other questions, Stuart, on that. Any other follow-up from Chris?
We got, so just to clarify, we got a question about the support team. The support team is all in Rochester, New York, obviously East Coast based, and we provide all of the support out of there. Same for the development organization. The development team is all in Rochester and US based. We have a couple of developers located outside Rochester, but in the United States. So it's all US based support and all US based development.
Yeah, and one other element of the support that I'll add in is we had added a new distributor in the fourth quarter called Rain Networks, and they're more of a they're value-add distributor focused on security software, and they are able to to help with a setup and first level support. It's kind of part of their value add, as well as kind of connecting and integrating with other software that you may have. So multiple different options there, and just love to work that through. So wanted to call them out. The other thing, just sort of on that note, where you can buy the product. So we do have 3 distributors today in a marketplace. So TD Synnex, Ingram Micro Cloud Marketplace is available for Nodeware, and also the Rain Network, as I mentioned. We've also just gone live with AWS Marketplace. We have the public offer, which is just a list price product, but we're also making available private offers. So if you have solutions on Marketplace and you want to sort of keep everything within that location, that market, then we will have basically by next week just finalizing the setup. If you want to ability to buy privately through the marketplace. So Mark, I'll switch off my screen. I think one of the things I'd like to emphasize is because we get a lot of feedback from MSPs about our ease of setup and deployment. And again, I may have mentioned it, but really 20 minutes or less, we can have a customer can be up and running with a new platform. And so I'd like to kind of go into that a little bit, because one of the pre-questions as well is how do we compare to Cyber CNS, and that's clearly one of our advantages is the deployment. So Mark, if you want to sort of get that, share your screen and just kind of take through a setup, customer setup, and I'll just kind of, while that's, oh, there you go. So, but one of the things, again, just to be specific about cyber, so the ease of deployment, ease of use, the deep scanning technology that I showed, and the results that help you do a remediation is a very unique feature to us. The continuous daily, scanning. The data you're seeing in here is never more than 24 hours old. So again, just that is what you provide, what we provide. So go ahead, Mark. Thank you.
Okay, so to Frank's point, here's a quick tutorial on setting up a new customer and deploying a sensor and/or agents. So right here, these are what I call customer cards. Each one of these are an individual multi-tenant account. If I wanted to add a new customer, in the top right-hand corner, I would simply hit add a new customer. We just need some high-level demographic data. Once you hit submit on that data, you would end up with a customer card very similar to this, named whatever the name of the company is that you gave it. You would then be redirected to the sub account setup page, which is what you're seeing here. Again, high demographic data. You can limit the number of assets that they want to scan. Let's say they have a small network. You can say limit to 25 assets if you wanted to. Otherwise, we will attempt to scan everything. Sites and interfaces. This is where you can submit your external public-facing IP addresses and/or domain names. So you just asset, put in your domain name and/or public-facing IP address, hit connect. It'll redirect you here. You can see these are all set up on a daily schedule. By default, they would be on demand. But let's say I wanted to, so by default, it would look like this. Just once you submit it, we'll scan it once. If you want to schedule it to a monthly cadence or daily or weekly cadence, you can do that by clicking on it. And let's say I want to do this monthly on the 6th of the month, update schedule, and now you can see that it's been updated to a weekly schedule. As Frank talked, agents are a one-to-one. These get installed. These are great for remote workforce, sales folks, anyone that may be outside the office. My personal preference, you install agents wherever you can, whether it's on your local area network at your organization or on your remote workers' laptops. Where you can install agents, do, because A, it's a credentialed scan in nature, has access to the file system, registry, service processes, and again, the full file system. It will scan for log4j natively, and you just get and by default, you automatically get that deep scan results. So because it's installed locally with admin rights, it runs as a service in the background, less than 3% utilization. I recommend personally to install agents where you can. This is where you can download them from. We have a MSI package for Windows. We have Mac and Linux here. All of these contain a script. So this would happen to be an Intune type script where you could push it out in bulk quietly to the back, push them out to your end users quietly. Mac, same thing as well as Linux. Credential scanning, if you do deploy a sensor, which natively is an uncredentialed scan, but you want to get that deep scan data, we need the user credentials to be able to allow that sensor to remotely log into the background of that machine to have access to the file system, service processes, and registry. And that's where you can do this here under credentialed scanning. We accept both WinRM and SSH. So I would just name. I would then provide the username and password for it. Now they have been added to the system. I can then apply them to the sensor, which I'll show you in just a moment. But as you can see from the agent downloads, if you did just download the MSI file, it's just like any other Windows program. Next, 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 finish, install. It's done and running. Under the sensors, slightly different, but if you go to the top right-hand corner, you have the download section. Here you have the Windows executable. This is currently being converted into an MSI. And then we have our both Hyper-V and VMware .ova file, which is an open virtual format. So this was a very simple installation. You can also just click through that. And if we come back over to support, we go to deployment instructions. Frank touched briefly. Here's A to Z of what you would get to. So you start clicking next, next, install. It would stop you at this prompt right here. Okay, it's telling you go back to the Nodeware dashboard and enter this code. It's very Netflix style of connecting the sensor to the customer. I would go to connect a sensor. We'll type in that code, the A429, I think it was. I would select the customer that I want to deploy this to. So let's say in this under Mifflin, and I can provide an optional sensor name. When I hit connect, I will end up with a server or a sensor card, very similar to this. Here, Aperture has one sensor deployed, Dunder Mifflin has two deployed. And by default, we will automatically pull the DHCP address that was provided to the sensor. We know the external address where it is communicating to the Nodeware backend. And then based off of the DHCP address, we automatically assign that first subnet range as the first subnet to scan. Now, if you have a VLAN setup or other physical subnets that you want to scan, you can simply put them in here, comma separated file, comma space, and you could do 192.168 dot, let's say dot 5.0/24. Once you hit submit, within 15 minutes, the sensor will recognize that change and begin to scan that other subnet. Only limitation on this is a 1024 address space, meaning not IP, active IPs, but it's the address space alone, which would equate to a single /22 network or 4/24 subnets. If in fact you have a larger network than that you need to be scanned, no harm, no foul. You just install, download, and install another sensor. Sensors and agents are 100% completely free to use and deploy. You can use as many as you need. The only thing you need to have is the blocks of assets to cover what you want to scan. So very quickly, as Frank said, under 20 minutes, I would say anyone with some tech skills would probably be closer to under 10 to deploy any one of these. We have thousands of them out there in the wild right now. They are very robust. They are auto self-healing, auto update. They call home. Any new code for Nodeware specifically will be pulled down around 3 a.m. unless we manually push it during the daytime hours. That also includes any vulnerability data is updated once per 24 hours. So anything new that comes out today will automatically be available for the next round of scans that either agents perform or sensors perform. One thing I'm not sure that Frank touched on is our multi-tenancy dashboard capability. So if you as an MSP create a Nodeware account, you are going to be the owner of the account. You can go ahead and start building out your technical team. So this works both for your tech team and your corporate team that you want to use Nodeware, but it can also be used for your customer. If you have a customer that you do a commit with, they have an IT staff that may help you augment some of the remediation, you can also include them in here. Very straightforward to do. Top right-hand corner again, right user. You just need a first name, last name, and then the level of access you want to grant. Think of analyst as read-only. They can touch, or they can see, they can't touch. This is read-only only. Technician, they have quite a bit more rights. They can modify risks. They can pause scanning. They can do some other stuff. They don't have any financial transaction capabilities or the ability to create additional users. Both analyst and technician, you can assign them to a specific customer. So let's say I wanted to assign John Doe to the Aperture customer as well as the Pawnee Parks customer. So right now I have those two selected. When I hit invite, they will receive an invitation. So-and-so has invited you to join their Nodeware team with the link. They follow the link, create their username, their password, and their multi-factor authentication. And when they come into the dashboard and they go to customers, they would only see Aperture and they would only see Pawnee Parks. They wouldn't have even know that Dunder and Sterling, Cooper, Drape are even a customer within this account. So if it was your customer, you'd grant them access to only their customer object, obviously, so you don't allow them to see your other customers. But that is a very powerful tool and allows you to build out your team pretty quickly. In a nutshell, that's kind of how to set up Nodeware.
That's great, Mark. And again, it's just in that, you know, that time of that 10-15 minutes is pretty close to what it would take in any MSP, especially after they've done the first one. Might take a little bit more time, but after that, you're up and running and very, very quick. One of the things, and Stuart, do we have any other questions come up?
Yeah, we actually got a couple that just came in. One was specifically around a consumption model. Yes, we have a consumption model. We're about to roll it out. If you're interested in that, you can buy at any number of assets you're interested in. You can obviously we make that available through our partners. We also, if you're interested in buying direct from us, if that's how you prefer to do business, you could buy those assets directly from us, either on an annual subscription that's paid monthly, or a non-contractual consumption agreement as well. That's a slightly higher uplift to it, but it gives you unlimited flexibility, both with our partners and through us directly. So, I mean, the net of about the consumption model and everything else is, we want to do business the way the MSPs want to do business, and we want to provide Nodeware the way they want to acquire it. So we've got a broad set of offerings that you can acquire assets, that you can scan different devices, and we want to work with you on any of the opportunities that you have.
Yeah. And so I'll just add to that, so that with different options becomes different price levels and price points, kind of a little bit of cost of money, time, flexibility, et cetera, et cetera. So realistically, you could if you're under 1,000 total assets, just give that as a starting point, The range is probably around 55 cents to 75 cents per asset per month, depending on how you buy it, but just when it's broken down on a monthly basis. As your price bands are from under 1,000 and then up to 2,500, up to 5,000, up to 75, up to 10,000, 15 and 20. And then above 20,000, we'll work with you and figure out the best model and what your commitment is, and we can negotiate the price through your purchasing preference. So realistically, the other thing I wanted to call out is that just understanding the assets, right? Because we are tracking everything that comes up as an IP address, we see on average it's 2 to 3 assets per employee. So if you've got a company of, a customer with 50 employees, you probably would expect 100 to 150 assets, and that would be scanned. And again, if you want to reduce that by excluding some, that's fine. But just in general, you're looking, in a medium or lower medium volume, probably $1 to $1.50 per employee per month, kind of just as a cost of running Nodeware. And again, that's going to vary based on volume, based on purchase method, but just as a rough guideline and expectations, then that's kind of where you'll be at. And again, given the value you're getting and the risk, the cyber hygiene levels, if you're putting this into an assessment tool or other uses, it's a great bargain compared to many other tools out there. Another one, Stuart, you said?
Those are all the questions that I have right now. Any other questions that anybody else has got in the audience? So look, a couple of things. We're happy to work with any MSP on a proof of concept, on any sort of evaluation of units or assets. We're happy to do that. We also have promotional offerings in place, as I mentioned, with 7-Figure MSP, with ASCII, and with our partners like Security Studio. So please reach out to us. We're happy to set up a time to talk to you. We're happy to look at different ways that you can evaluate Nodeware for the assets that you support, for the clients that you work with. And with that, I want to just thank everybody.
Actually, before you go there, let me just one other thing kind of related to that. If you are interested in a proof of concept, you want to try it internally, we can easily add some assets into your network. Let's say 100 to start with, and you can kind of play around, test, utilize it, and install yourself as a customer. Within that proof of concept, you also have the ability to do it as a free trial. You might not have noticed when Mark was setting up a new customer, there was a button on the bottom to set up as a free 7-day trial for your end user. Again, within a short time, you can be up and running, you can get data. We have a lot of MSPs using that as a prospecting tool, right? You can get an idea, they might tell you they have 75 assets, but realistically they have 100 or 150. So you can, do an accurate count so that your SOW and your MRR is correct and appropriately priced. But you can also help identify, problematic systems on the network, right? Things that you may not want to deal with, even if you're just managing them, right? They may need to be upgraded. So that trial is a really great prospecting tool to start out with. An existing customer, maybe you wanted to see what else is really on there, or prospecting to a new customer if they'll allow you to have some access. But again, some great data that's easy and free and helps you win over that customer in the long run.
Perfect. Well, as we said, we've got some upcoming events. We've got the open office hours coming up on March 3rd for the 7-Figure MSP members. If you're at the ASCII event in Southern California, please stop by and see Frank. Also, if you're a Security Studio user of their S2 assessments, the Nodeware integration into that, they're at the ASCII event as well. If you want to go reach out to them and talk to them about how our API integrates with them. We also will have our next cyber security thought leadership session coming up in April. And as I said, we have a couple that will take place in March as well. So once again, come to our LinkedIn page. connect with us, ask questions, collaborate. You know, this is about building a community and all working on this together. You know, as I tell people all the time, when I first got to Nodeware about a year and a half ago, you know, half of the small business leaders in the country thought the bad guys would never find them. And now that number, when you look at recent surveys, that number's down in kind of the 10% range. So small businesses know they need to protect their data. They also know their clients or their customers may be asking them to make sure they're doing a better job protecting their data. You know, we have an MSP that has some law firms they support, and the clients of the law firm told them, if you're not doing continuous vulnerability management and our data is not being protected, we are going to move off of you. So they brought Nodeware in to provide that continuous vulnerability management, the auto alerting, because that's what the MSPs needed, because that's what their customers were looking for. We're also seeing a lot of things from investors and board members and angel investors and angel organizations that are now starting to require continuous vulnerability management because they want to make sure their investment is safe and their investment is secure. So just be looking at, you know, the compliance requirements, the regulatory requirements, and the frequency of attacks, and make sure, you know, you're providing, you know, the first couple of steps to getting people on a cyber hygiene process or plan, or, you know, a full-blown way to provide these small businesses and medium-sized businesses the help and success they need. So with that, I want to thank everybody for attending today. As always, the recording will be available on YouTube. And if you have any questions or want to set up a trial or a proof of concept, please let us know, and we'd be happy to work with you on that. So thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to seeing you on our next session.
See you out on the road.